Right, we'll start.
Right.
And we're here with Grandad, and he's been kind enough to give us an interview today. So we're just going to start possibly just with your name first.
Edward William Henderson,
Oh, cool. And what year were you born?
1931.
1931. Yeah. And so what does that make it? We're today 2019, yeah. So...
Makes me 88.
88?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're born on the...
1st of August.
1st of August, the
Yeah.
horse's birthday.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And what, were you born in the Greymouth Hospital, or you...
I was born in Greymouth. It wasn't a hospital, it was a Rewa House, I think it was called.
Right.
And yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Rewa House. It was I don't know if it was a private place or what it was, but it wasn't a Greymouth hospital anyway.
But is that in Greymouth?
In Greymouth, yeah.
Do you remember your parents?
Oh, you only remember them well?
Yep. What were their names?
Well, I think Dad was just trained Edward. I don't think he had a second name. But Mum was Lillian Eileen. And her maiden name was Kearney.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
But I think, as I say, I think Dad had just had William Henderson, Edward Henderson. Yep. Or Ned, they used to call him Ned. Okay. So,
what about your grandparents? Do you remember, were they alive when you were...
Yeah, Dad's parents were, they came out from England. They went to Tekapo and then Dad was there too. And then they went to, I think they went to Blackball, to the mining thing. I'm not too sure about it, but I think that's what happened. And then Dad went over to Blackball as well after that,
Yeah.
But my grandfather, Dad's father, he was a horse wrangler, he'd broken horses and things like that, yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic shot. He was a great marksman with shotguns with
when it comes to duck shooting or something, or
things like that, yeah, rabbits and that.
Oh,
yeah,
right,
he was first class there.
Yep.
But anyway, well, I don't think Dad ever went back to the Tekapo after that.
Yep.
He later on, we moved to Timaru. The whole family moved to Timaru. It was during the wartime, and we. Dad got a job driving a truck for Goulden Company, and we lived in a little place out at just a couple of kilos out of Timaru called Gleneaty.
Okay.
And we went to school there for quite a while. I had a little school there.
Yep.
And anyway. I think we were there for about a year. We were in Timaru for about a year. And anyway, this fellow Gould that owned the business, the trucking business, he bought a mine on the west coast, and he got Dad and another fellow called Bill Beebe to go and work it for them.
Okay.
So we returned to the coast then, and we went back there. Yeah.
Back to Greymouth, was it?
Back to Cobden.
Oh, Cobden.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
so you basically grew up in Cobden, and you had the siblings. You got the brothers.
Yeah, I had 4 brothers. I was the oldest, and then Jack was about 12 months younger than me.
Yep.
And then there was Billy, and Owen, and Christopher.
Yep.
But Jack just died recently. But.
And you all lived in Cobden in a small house?
No, it was quite big. It was an old-fashioned house, It was, I don't know when it was built, but it was a big, big old place, big high ceilings and that sort of thing.
And did you all go to the same school as well? When you?
Yeah, we all went to Cobden Convent, and then we must have got to a certain age. I don't know what it was, a certain standard or what. But then we went to Maris Brothers School in Greymouth here. I was there till I was about 15, I think, and then I went to work in an ice cream factory. And
oh, right. What did you do there?
Oh, it was just really the rouseabout of washing the cans and that sort of thing, and doing odd jobs.
Yeah.
We had making chocolate bombs, they were in the chocolate and the ice cream were poured into like a bomb, and then you'd have prongs that went into them, with a tray. You put those in the bombs, put them in the freezer, and then when they were frozen stiff, you'd just put them in, I think, just a bit of warm water, and then just lifted them out, on the sticks,
Yeah.
Because in those days they went on the sticks. Then they went into cones, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Put them in the cones. They were nice.
So that was your first job?
That was the first job, and I was there for a couple of years or more. It might have been a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left and I went to the brewery in Greymouth.
Okay.
And it was it was more like a bottling plant and a storage for they used to deliver Monteiths used to send their beer down from Reefton, and some hotels took that, and I worked there washing bottles, for a long time. Then I got a job on the truck, for a while.
Delivering that?
Delivering out
Yep.
for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I was there, I was about 17 or something when I went there.
Yep.
And I was only there a short time, 12 months or something like that. And then when I turned 18, my father got me a job in the state mine, Dobson State Mine, and I went there for about from 1918. I went there for about 2.5 years, I think. I was there when the big strike in 1951, Wharfie strike, the miners went out with it.
Mm-hmm.
And after the strike, shortly after the strike, my father had bought a mine at the 8 Mile called Bellevue. And the strange thing about it was that he bought the share of Triss.
All right.
Yeah.
And Triss was
Triss was still a shareholder.
Yeah.
And anyway, but Triss always said they were dying to get rid of me because he was useless, so he couldn't work in the mine. So he said, I think they were dying to get rid of me. They were always moaning poverty and what have you. But anyway.
And just for people who are watching the video who don't know who you are or who Triss was, do you want to tell?
Oh, Triss was my wife, Triss and I met, it might have been 12 months after I was in the mine or something like that. It wasn't a long time after I met her. But anyway, I stayed there for about 6 years or something. I worked for them.
Oh.
And then a share came up for a mine just across the valley at New Jubilee. So anyway, I didn't have any money, so I had I wanted £800 for it. So a friend of my father's, and he was the secretary of the Cobden Rugby League, Barney McGee. He said, look, you can have what money you want, I'll lend you the money, and you can pay me back at $50 a month, or if you have a bad month, you don't need to pay me at all. It was fantastic. So he lent me the money, and he said, all I want is my 2% interest on it, sort of thing like that. And I said, yeah, that's fine. So I moved over there. It was like a slave labour camp. It was all work and no play.
Yeah.
But anyway, I stayed there for, I was there for a while. In 1964, I think, I sold my share. Yeah, anyway, they said to me, they tried to talk me into staying, but I made up my mind. I was pig-headed, and they was, to me, they was buying gear that we didn't need, boxes and and rails and things that we had plenty of, and it was getting up my wick. And anyway, I was sitting in the truck one day coming out to go to work, and somebody said, "Oh, Richie Hickson, fella he was looking for a share." I said, "Tell him he can have mine." I said, no, mate, Tris was in Christchurch, you know, she didn't know anything about it, so I went to, and I said, no, that's it, I've had it. So anyway, they said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Oh, I'll go to the state, you know," and they said, they had a bit of a meeting, and they said, "Well, why don't you come and work for us?" And I said, and they said, "We'll pay you good, you know, money, and you can have every Saturday off. You don't have to work." And anyway, I said, "All right, I would," you know. So I worked for them for a couple of years,
Right.
and they were good to me, you know. And but anyway, what happened was another mine had worked out, you know. It was in the 10-mile area, and they were just, I don't know how many of the party were in it, but they were prospecting for a new mine, and two of them had to go, and of course our party took them, you see. And anyway, of course, with the 2 extra men and the extra coal, and the agent in Christchurch was crying out, "Where's all the coal coming from?" And so anyway, they had a meeting, and we all two workers that they'd hired, and myself was sitting in the truck waiting for them, and it was a long time. And anyway, one of them said to the other, I can't even remember their names, "It looks as though our jobs are gone." And the other one said, "Yeah, if it goes on any longer, Ted, it could be yours as well." So I said, "Well, that's, you know, what happened." So anyway, they came out and they said the 2 fellas would have to go. And they said, "Ted, you'll have to go too, but you don't have to go until you find yourself another job, or, you know, you can start, you know." So it's all right. So I got a job straight away. My father-in-law and he had a friend, and my friend, and
Yep.
I walked straight into the state job. I went and saw the boss of the union man, and so I walked in there, and that was in 1964. So I stayed in 1964 until and in 1967 there was a big explosion, you know.
What, this was in the Strongman mine?
Yeah, Strongman mine.
Is this so you were working in there at the time when it blew?
Yeah, when it blew up. We were in a different section, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
could you tell that there was something going on?
Yeah, there was we were up in a place called the Rise Headings, you know. We were way up. You went into other parts of the mine, they went that way, and they went way down, and I wasn't in many other parts really, but we were up in the Rise workings, like probably going up into the hills, you know, sort of thing. Mm. And we were waiting on boxes to come, and there was a draft of air. If you know, like say the roof fell in here, and you can imagine the air, you could feel that, you know. Mm-hmm. It was a sort of a woof. So I think, I sort of looks as though there's been a fall somewhere that we're waiting, you know. And anyway, shortly after, there's a light at the bottom of this, we were up for the incline, there's a light at the bottom down there, and whoever it was yelled out, "You better come out, there's been an explosion in Greens number 2, you know." So we just gathered up our gear and walked down, and there was a manhauler. We had to get on 2 manhaulers. We were up, you know, up high, and we got on one and then got onto another. And anyway, nobody sort of panicked or anything like that. And so we got down to the bottom and we were walking out, and the others were coming from other sections. And one fellow, I don't know even it was, but he said to me, Laurie was down there. That was my friend, Laurie Coghlan. And I said, no, he wasn't in that section, to whoever it was. And they said, yes, he was. His place was gassed out, a strange thing, and they sent him down there.
It's
so
unfortunate.
He was one of the ones that perished in it, yeah. Mm. So anyway, we came out, and I stayed there for another 12 months, and then things were very touchy. There was talk of gas or anything. Home, home we go, home again, and
Yep.
I was sick of it, and the young family to to look after.
Yeah, because you had what, 3 or 4 kids
Well,
at
we
by
had
this
the
stage.
two girls, the two older girls, Bev and Phil,
Mm.
and then we had Jill and Greg, and we and it was I was getting sick of it, so there was a job come up at the Workmen's Club.
In Greymouth.
No, in Rananga.
Oh, Renee.
Yeah, so I played for that. I used to do a bit of part time, not for nothing. I used to just do a bit of work for them for. They used to grab me every now and again. It was sort of thing.
And there was serving drinks, was it? And
yes, yes,
taking
same
money
like as barman, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, I applied and I got the job, and the money wasn't as good, of course, as what's name, but it was a good job, and they were good to work for.
Mm-hmm. In your spare time too, when you were younger, going back to when you were younger, at school, what have you, what did you get up to? Did you have any sports that you got into, or
Well, I was
fishing, or
when I went to the Marist, I used to play. The convent had a team, and
is this rugby league or rugby?
Rugby, we had a good player, Joe the goalie. He was sort of looked on as a crack player, but I was hopeless. I was running around like a chook, and I had no idea. And so anyway, the state school took him in, because he put them in their team, and there was a Billy Hughes who said that he liked Sister St. John, I think she was called, and this thing that he liked because she played football with them, sort of thing. Yeah. But anyway, when I went to Marist, when I went and I played rugby on. They used to have rugby on a Thursday or something, like school rugby, and I can remember coming on the train out to Renanga, like a big trip,
Mm.
But I wasn't any good at that either. I was still running around. I didn't know where I was going, and my uncle, who had been away at the war, this was he would still be away at the war. I can't think what year it would be. But anyway, he'd left his football boots behind, and of course I didn't. And they gave them to me, and they were too big. And I was so embarrassed with them, I used to sit on my feet when there was a break or anything like that to hide them, And anyway, and as I say, I wasn't much good, but anyway, I must have improved because I had a big tournament, and primary school's tournament, and it was called the Seed and Shield, I think it was called, and it was comprised of Nelson, Marlborough, Buller, Golden Bay, Motueka, and West Coast, and it was held in Nelson this year. And anyway, I got selected in the team to go away for God knows. But anyway, I went there, and I can't remember what we didn't win the Shield anyway. But so then I came back, and I played a bit of rugby for Cobden, and I don't know for how long, because all my friends were there, Doug Stanton and Ron Haddock, and so I played for them for a while until about 1946 or 47 or something like that. And Dad talked me into playing league because he was involved in the league, and he bribed me. He said to me, "I'll buy you a watch." I never had a watch. "I'll buy you a watch if you turn over."
And was your father at the time a coach of the team? Was he?
Yes, he was. He became the coach. Because I was playing third grade in the rugby, because when I went to the league it was all weight and age and that sort of thing, so we went back to fourth grade, and all my rugby friends were giving me hell saying you're going backwards, But anyway, we were in the fourth grade, and we had a good side, you know, Jack and you know and other friends and we, and all Jack's friends and that they from Marist turned over to us, you know, and that sort of thing, and then we went on for there and we went into the third grade. I think Jack didn't play that, but we had a third grade team. And it was pathetic. It was pathetic. We only had about 9 or 10 players. I think Jack and them stayed back, and if we had 10, it was a bonus. But we had these players, and we never won a game, and we got beat. It seemed to be a number. We got beat 39-0. It was amazing. It propped up every time, propped up and propped up. But anyway, so we moved into the senior reserve grade, and things sort of we had a cracking side, you know.
Can you remember some of the players' names?
Yeah, there was Jack, of course.
Your brother Jack?
Brother Jack, and there was Pat O'Leary, Johnny Brown, Cecil Bowden. Ian Hay came in as a fantastic player.
Okay, so we've got some photos here of a league team, have we?
Like the league here, Cobden Rugby League.
Cobden Rugby League team?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, this team is the senior team.
So
the Dumlow twins, Bob and Frankie Dumlow.
On the two ends here?
Two ends. Bob and Frankie Dumlow.
These two here?
The two identical twins, yeah.
Yep. So you can point them out for us.
The next one along is Kevin Caldwell.
Mm-hmm.
The following one is Gordon Curtis. The next one is Johnny Brown. The next one is Noel Longley, and that's the other twin we were talking about. Mm-hmm. This one here is Tom Baxter, I think his name was. I'm not too sure about that now. John Cox, and myself. Rex Broom, his brother. Pat O'Leary. Oh God, he's a good player too. Came from Dobson. He was a bloody good player too.
So the guy on the end, this fella here.
Yeah.
Duncan Wiley.
Yep. This is a long way back. This side.
Oops, sorry, I'll just go over.
And Jack should have been on that side too, but he was away on the Navy. He used to play when he came home. But this side, I'm sure, was taken in Christchurch and Papanui. In the late 1940s, I think, and we were played Papanui and we played Hornby, because that's the Broom's father. I can't think of his first name.
Mr. Broom.
Yeah, and that's Dad there.
Oh, okay. Yep.
But that's Jack Broom. I think it's I'm not too sure. John Broom, anyway, and that's our Jack.
Brother Jack. Yeah.
Brother Jack. Kevin Caldwell. Tommy Baxter. Cecil Bowden. Pat O'Leary, and that's Dad. And that's Ronnie Hay. Coco Thompson, I don't know his other name. Myself. Johnny Brown. I don't know this fella's name at all. Pat O'Leary and Cyril Curtis.
The coast had a lot of good rugby players, didn't they?
Rugby league players.
Rugby league players and
fantastic.
Some New Zealand reps as well come out of there. Some Kiwi come out of there.
Oh, a lot of Kiwis, yeah. Yeah, there was. I played against. A lot of them were finishing their careers when I started. Like he played for quite a while. Ginger McLennan, he was a fantastic player, big fella from Blackpool. He was playing when I played, you know, but he was getting to the end of his career, and a lot of them were on Charlie McBride, a great player, and fellow Ainsley, and they were all just finishing their careers and that.
Mm-hmm.
And but there was the newer ones came on then, you know, and even I was lucky to get a couple of games for them too, you know, in the 53, 54 I think it was, or 54, 55, I can't remember now.
The West Coast team?
In the Coast team,
Yeah.
yeah. But
that would have been a big deal for you when getting selected, you know, playing for the Coast?
oh hell yes, oh yes. As I say, I played, I represented the Coast in all the grades, right through, you know.
Mm.
And then I got in the senior reserve, which was a big thrill, I can tell you that. And because I wasn't even picked in the side, you know.
Mm.
And when I got home, I always remember coming home and Mum coming out to meet me, you know. And she said, you never got in the team, son, you know. And I said, oh, never mind, you know, sort of thing. She said, but you never even got in the reserves. I said, oh, well, never mind. So that was all right. And on that night, they bloody pelted down, rained like hell. And anyway, and the next morning, the phone went, and it was coach of the Coast team. And he said, oh, listen, Ted, somebody pulled out of the side, so he said, you're to go into the reserves. And he said, but he said, you'll probably only have to play the first half because the hooker, whose father owned the Rappahoe Hotel, has got flooded with all the rain and got flooded out, and he stayed behind. He's going to have to stay behind to help his father in the cellar and that. So he said, you can play till half time. I said, okay. So I went out, he said, go over to the Richmond Hotel and get changed and go out on the bus. So I went over there and always put the jersey on, number 15, reserve. So I always remember standing on the standing room only in the bus and went out there. So the time come to play and we all run onto the park. And to be quite honest, I couldn't do a thing wrong. Anyway, yeah, as I say, everything went perfectly. So half time came, and the other fella hadn't arrived, and I went back onto the field, and anyway, the next thing I heard a noise calling, and they were going like this, and I could see them looking at testing the other fella's boots, the hooker's boots, and they were going like this. So I went to run off, and the coach or somebody said, no, not you, Ted, this other fella. I went on, and I had a dream came, absolute dream.
Get a try or two, did you?
No, I didn't try, but I was in everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I almost, I probably would have, if I'd had, what happened, one part of it, the ball was kicked back. I always remember these parts, you know. The ball was kicked back and it ran past me. So I run back towards it, and I could saw our fullback behind me, and I thought, oh, I'll try and scoop it up, and if I scoop it and I can't pick it up, it'll go back towards him. So I scooped it up one hand, and it almost slipped out of my hands, and it was the perfect dummy. All their players went flying past, so I just was no gap. And I ran the length of the field, almost the length of the field, and the fullback was there, and he came up to meet me, and Johnny Brown was standing beside me, or almost beside me. So I didn't know whether to try and run round the fullback or pass it to the. So I choose I'll pass it. So I lobbed it, so it was wet and that. So I lobbed it like that, and I lobbed it too high and hit him on the shoulder.
Oh.
And but anyway, we scored after that, and we got beaten at the finish. No, we never got beaten. No, no, sorry, we won the 9-6.
Oh,
yeah. We scored, yeah. I was thinking of another game.
Do you remember who that was against?
Eh? That was against Canterbury.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
good.
against Canterbury.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, no, it was good. But, well, it was a dream. I had a dream round the couldn't put a foot wrong.
Yeah.
It all sticks in my mind.
Yeah, that's good.
It was one of those days, one game I played in Greymouth, and I went and I'd been working in the mine, you know, and I got on the wet time bus, and we'd had no training or anything like that, and so anyway, got off the mine bus and went straight to the park and got changed, and but I was dead loss. God, I was missing bloody tackles, which I prided myself on, you know, prided myself on. And in the finish, I was getting embarrassing, and I did a bit of a Hollywood. I said, "Oh, my bloody leg!" Oh. And one game we were playing, we were in the senior reserves, and we're playing it on the second ground at Wingham Park. We were playing Naihiri, and we were getting. I was sitting down putting the boots on, and Johnny Brown, he was captain at the time, and I was vice captain, I think. And Johnny was sitting beside me, and Dad came in, and they were talking about, because we were new in this, I think it was the first time we played Naihiri, and talking about, and Dad said to me, and keep it tight, you know, keep the game tight, which is unusual for him. He liked to see it play. Just keep it tight. And Johnny Brown said to me, you know, he said, yeah, just keep it tight, Ted, have a few runs yourself and keep it tight. So anyway, that was all right. Get on, the game goes on, ball comes out to me. I was playing at first receiver, I turned it back into the forwards, that went on, the backs weren't getting it. Next time, the same thing happened, I kept having. And the next thing, old man walked down, he said, "You don't let that bloody ball go, I'm taking you out of there."
Change of plan.
I'll never forget that. That's, you know, they stick in your mind, those things. You'll never forget them. Yeah. I'm bloody take you out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were getting on top of them. We were getting on top of them anyway. We won, you know. But no, he was I thought he was an excellent coach myself. You know, he wasn't a growly, grumpy, bloody person or sort of things like that. But he you know, he'd always tell you what to do and give us his advice and things like that. But when we get onto seniors, and they had a meeting in Greymouth one night, and Peter Montfort was he was a Kiwi, but he'd been retired, and he'd had a terrible head injury, but they let him play. He was going to play a coach, but anyway they decided to have him as coach, and I said, well, I said I seem to have I voted for Dad. I said, I know Peter, and I said, you know, but I said, you're probably biting off more than what you can chew, you know. I know, well, so that was it. But and it turned out that right. Peter was bloody. To give you an instance, we were practicing one night down there, and he was there, and we played the ball, and the ball, Pat O'Leary got the ball, and he passed it to me, and I had to stretch out like that to get it, and I was lucky to hold on to it, you know. And Peter turned around and said, if you throw a pass like that, you won't be playing on Sunday like that. And then turned to me and he said, if you can get one hand to it, you get bloody two. And that's what, the difference.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
But he was still a clever player, but he didn't last long. We were playing at he played for Blackpool in his day, and we were playing Blackpool out at Winger Park, and he got hit in a high tackle, and the referee rushed over and stuck the whistle in his mouth, and you could hear it all over the ground, and that was the finish of him, He finished it.
So a lot of the time spent on the coast when you were growing up, and you had league and you're working in the mines. What would be involved in a day's work in the mine from start of your day to the finish?
Well, when I was working, when I went to the state mine, I was just pushing boxes around with a trucker, But when I worked for my father and that, I was shoveling coal and things like that,
and you had just a helmet with a lamp on it, or a pickaxe or a shovel.
No, in Bellevue was Naked Light, the carbine battery, and it used to clip onto it had a couple of little hooks like that, and it used to clip onto your hat.
Yeah.
But they used to get broken quite easily in that, and finally it would swing around on your head, but you got used to that sort of thing, and you learned quickly how to not get burnt. When I first went there, put your hand up, used to the thing, and but you soon got used to that,
Mm.
And they were good. They didn't show any shadows or thing like that, and you got used to them. It's amazing how you got used to them.
Yeah.
And you always had a tin of cardboard handy. They'd run down, and you could take them out, and still be a bit of good cardboard, and then you could shake them out. You could spit in them if you wanted to, or had your water there, you could just put a bit more water in them till they went off, and you just change the carbide. But they lasted quite well, and they're a good light.
Yeah.
And but anyway, with over Dad's mine, you were either pushing truck boxes around or working with him and things like that. I worked with him quite a bit.
Did you have to lay tracks as well and rails and to put the carts
well,
on?
You should do all that yourself over there and that sort of thing.
And what about the involvement with dynamite to blast rocks out? Did you have much to do?
In the Naked Light place, it was fuse, with detonators, and we'd cut the fuses. We'd cut them one length, a certain length. Well, I forget what the length was, it might have been that long. And then we'd put them in, we'd put our explosive, we'd bore our holes in, we'd bore say 6 or 7 across the bottom, and about 3 across the middle, and only used about 2 in the top holes. And then we'd tamp all over, we'd put the amount of powder we required, it might have been 3 or 4 plugs or whatever and you always put 3 plugs in. We'll say what's going to put 4 in. You'd put say 3 in, and then you'd put the one with the det in last, and then you'd put what they call dummies in. It was mud or clay mud or something like that. We had rolled paper called dummies, and we'd fill them up with that and put those, tamp those in behind with this rod. And when that was all done, we'd cut the longest piece off the first hole. We'd cut it long, and we'd cut the next one shorter and shorter and shorter till the last one was only just getting a snib off it, you see. And then we'd go out, we'd like my father he would be lighting them, and I'd stand behind him in case because they'd spit back, the fuse, and put the light out. So I just give him mine, And I was standing like this, and and then the thing would blow out, and we're getting along, and the bloody thing would blow out again, and I said, for God's sake, hurry up, we'd get down and do the middles, and then we'd run around the corner to the thing, and then the next thing go boom, 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 all the way through, hoping you had enough powder in the holes, because if one blocked, that was a finish, if it didn't come. So anyway, we go in, and they were all gone, especially over there, but
And you were allowed to go buy dynamite from a shop, were you? Or?
we had a magazine. I can't remember the one. What's the name? We had a magazine, and we used to take the powder in, and we had a powder tin, and we did. That's what we did there, and then we'd fill the coal out. But in the coal in Bellevue, we had what they call fire clay. Was about that. It was on the top of the coal, the seam of coal. You know what I mean? And when you fire, when the tops came down, this bloody stuff landed on top. It was like, not like sand, it was gratey. It was damn use. It was in the coal. We had to try and scrape it off. But anyway, on the other side, when I was a shareholder in New Jubilee, that was on the floor of the ground. It was sort of muddy sort of thing. But you got used to it sort of thing, you pull over the top of it and things like. But on that side, it was a different thing. It was classed as a gas mine, and we had to fire by detonators and things like batteries. So we did the same thing. We bored there, but we put more of that. The coal over there was much harder than even though it was both brown coal, it was harder. It had a sort of a grey stone in it called peritus, I think they called it. And it had a hard stone in the roof, just below the ceiling, we used to call it Black Billy, because if the boring bits touched it, they just bunted them straight away.
Okay.
So we used to bore just beneath it, so we didn't touch it. Now and again we struck it, but the bit had it. But we had a tin full of bits. So we'd over there we used to bore our top holes first, and over on the other mine we used to clean out different type altogether. So what we would do, when we nearly worked on our own there, and what I would do, we'd had coal there for them first thing in the morning. We'd fire, had a round of coal there. So I would fill into that corner, say the left-hand corner, pull in there and work away that, and then once and while I'm changing a box around or something, I'd bore a top hole, and then I'd bore a bottom hole, and then I'd work it, and I'd still be working in there. Once I got a bit of room, I'd bore one hole along the side, and I'd work in there, and then another hole, cutting in on that. Till by the time I got across, I had most of the holes all bored, you see.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then I'd tamp them up, and it was the same thing. But with powder, we put a bit more powder in, because if they didn't come, you had to rebore the damn thing again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that never happened, or very rarely, if something did happen, so so it was the same thing. The holes were all, by the time I cleaned up the last box, I was all bored, and then I just had to tamp them up, Had it worked out to a fine art,
Yeah.
But,
and when you blew the holes, did you have to wait for the dust to clear and stuff, like wait 10 minutes or something, or were you just straight in there,
Straight in, we didn't wait.
Yeah, it would have been a dirty, dirty job.
No, we didn't know. We kept our brat or something that brought the air into us. We kept that up, sort of thing, and take it out. But
did you have lunch breaks in Did you have lunch breaks in the mine themselves? When you had not
in that mine.
No,
not in. You
didn't take any water with you, or some food, or
yeah. I used to take a quart bottle of milk and a large bottle of water, and For a start off, I used to take a sandwich or something like that, but I got past that, you know, and when Doug was the same as me, Doug Lyon. He used to say, Ted, you can always have a sandwich while you're pushing your boxing, you know. I tell you what, it was like slave labour camp.
Yeah.
But anyway, one or two of them used to, and Doug would go down and he'd come down for something rather. He worked up on the tops away. Him and Michi Donaldson worked up in taking the rest of the pillars out up there, and the others worked down where I was, and there was just the three of us, and they were driving a dip down, and I was working off them, sort of thing, and I'd drive along, and then they'd break up towards me and keep the air flowing and sort of thing like that. But they would come down, and they were, this is at the beginning, they were shifted out of the after a while, but, and they'd be having a lunch or tea break, and Doug would walk and say, oh, the miners' picnic, you know. They were entitled to it, but he never did, and I never did.
Yeah.
But
for example, at the Strongman mine, did a whistle go off to say everyone has to stop for a lunch break?
Oh,
or?
no, nothing. They had just a set time. About 10 o'clock, they'd say.
They just all go out of the mine and eat? While they're in there?
They had their lunch there, and they'd have a snack, we call snack time.
Yep.
And they'd just have a break for 10 minutes. And
yep.
of course, it's all union in there, and they have their lunch time at 12 o'clock or whatever it was. You know, they sat there and they'd all eat their lunches. Did
you have many pneumatic tools, you know, air jackhammers and things like that?
Yeah, we had, it was all electric, and over at Dad's mine, over at Bellevue, they had electric drills, the same sort of thing, yeah. But over at ours was all compressed air, you know, yeah.
So they had the generators
we had a big generator outside.
Yep.
And because we had pumps in too, you see a lot of pumps, and when they were driving this dip away, they had because they filled up with water, it was very wet overnight, and they had a pump. Pump would come on, and it would might be set for 6 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and it would pump the water up to a big sump further up, halfway up, say for argument's sake, into that sump. And they had another pump there, and it would pump it out of the mine, you see.
Right. Yeah.
But they would, and they were going gradually easing away from me, and that's what was happening too. The seam was getting lower as we went in, and gradually, after I left, it sort of got lower and lower, and then they had to turn away and away further. But anyway, they we used to go out and check the pumps every now and again. I used to go out at Christmas time. They lent me the van. I didn't have a car. They lent me the van at that sort of thing. But anyway, we used to take it in turns too to go out and check the pumps and things like that. And one Sunday, Doug Lyon and we'd been out somewhere, Tristan and I, and I must have had a car by that time. But never mind. Anyway, Doug Lyon rang me. He said, you better come out, Ted, the bloody pumps have stopped, you know, and it's flooded down there, you know. I wish I'd never bloody gone out. So I went out, and here they were, the pump, it was on a trolley, you know. So we all got stripped up, and here we were, but a beautiful sight, battery on the backside, naked, just their gumboots on, a hat on, standing over in the freezing cold. Nobody could tell you what water was cold. And we're fiddling around trying to get the hook onto the trolley to pick, you know. I said, Doug, you look a beautiful sight. He said, yeah, well, have a look at yourself. So anyway, we got us hooked up, and then we got out, and out it came, was like a submarine coming up, you know, out of the thing, pulled it out. Dragged it outside, and rang the electrician. He came out, and anyway, we were there till 3 o'clock in the morning. It had a heater on it, you know, and they were drying it out. and anyway, at 3 o'clock we put it back, and off we went home. Went out in the morning, bloody thing was flooded again, it stopped.
Oh no.
So we had to get a new motor, you know.
Mm.
And I don't know what, I remember Doug saying it, I don't know what the bill will be, Ted. He said, fella Martin was the electrician, he said, I think he writes his account out with a fork. In 1970, Bev and Phil got married and what have you, and Jill was working at Broadcasting House in Greymouth, and you know she wasn't very fussed on that. And Beverly moved up to the New Plymouth, and Phil moved down to the house. You know, they went down, and then Phil and Tony decided to go down to. They moved over to Christchurch, and then they went. I think I've got it right. And then they moved down to Invercargill, and then so we didn't know where we were going to go. We didn't know where to go. But so we came down to Invercargill. We thought we would go down with the younger ones, you know. So
had you been down to Invercargill before that time?
No, I hadn't. I'd only been down as far as Dunedin. I've never been any further than Dunedin. But so we came down here, and then Tony got me a job working for a builder at the hospital, labouring, you know. So anyway, so I was working there, and Tris was working too, you know, and we were renting a house in Stewart Street at the time. And anyway, we I worked for this fella for a while, and the chap that used to go with Beverly before, he was a supervisor at Wilkinson Davies construction place. They were putting the tunnel in at Manapuri, and he said he'd get me a job up there, you know. But I had an old car, you know, and I thought I've got to, you know, running backwards and forwards. Mm. So I thought I'll stay where I am. And anyway, I worked for this builder, and he told me he had plenty of work. He was going to build a house in Bluff. And anyway, the next thing, he was out of work. So he tried to get me a job with the plumbers, and they didn't want a plumber. And anyway, another builder was there, and he said, "Oh, you could come and work for us, you know, for a bit, you know." And I said, "Oh, all right then." So I took that. And anyway, in the meantime, I thought, well, I'll put up this job for the club, Invercargill Working Men's Club came up. I said, I'll apply for that, you know, just in case of anything. So anyway, I got the job at the club, and then the boss of the builder offered me a full-time job there, you see. And I said, oh, they've given me the job, you know, so I thanked him, and that was all right. So I went, started, because in that time the Working Men's Club only opened in the afternoon at 4 o'clock. So I was at the club this day, and the foreman from the builder came in and said, "How would you like to come and work for us for in the morning? You know, work what hours you like." So I said, "All right." So I went to work for them from 7:30, I think, till about 2 o'clock or something like that. And I'd rush home and have a shower and then shoot down to the club. But I had it all ready, because at night time when I knocked off at 10 o'clock, I'd do everything, you know, sort of thing. And so I had very little to do when I went to work, you know. Mm. So I carried on that for quite a while. And then one of the committee men, Arthur Bishop, was he was a car salesman. So he came in one day and he said, "How would you like to come and work for us it'll be easier on your body, and you can work whatever hours you like, you know, and just cleaning cars, you know, new cars, and I'll, you know, keeping the showroom tidy and things like that. So I went to work for them then, and that went on until 1973, because and then they decided the place got busier, and they opened a new one in 73. That's right. And for a while it was just the afternoon, and then they opened it all day. So like I had to give that up. But anyway, they compensated me for the loss of my wages at the thing. So so it opened up, and then it got busier and busier, and we had to get staff then and things like that. And I stayed there till 1979. Over the two clubs I was there for 8.5 years or something like that. But by this time I was sick of it, you know. I was bloody driving me up the wall, you know, and I was never away from the place. You know, you just say I'm going to have my holidays, you know, I'll take the holidays, and somebody fill in for me. And you know, sometimes it was the president's wife, you know, she'd fill in. And my phone would ring, and Ted, look, can you come down? Something's wrong, you know. So down I go. And I think I've said this before. I'm repeating myself. I used to say to them, now the gas cylinders are set. There are two of them there, and they're set. You don't have to touch them. If one runs out, you just turn over to the other one. But they said they're set, the right pressure, don't touch them. Ring, ring, oh Ted, the bloody gas, the beer's blowing. What have you done? Oh, we thought it was a bit light and we turned it up. This went on, you know, more than once. Couldn't tell them. And you know, I was never away with some other bloody thing.
And after the Workmen's Club job, after you finished up there, what did you do after that? Did you go out to, did you work at TY after that?
Oh yes, I left the Workmen's Club, you know, and so one day I was there. I thought, oh, I'm sick of this sort of thing, and I'm getting older now, and mind you, it was hard work down there, but I thought, oh, I'll go down just out of curiosity. So I drove down there one day, and I said, do you got jobs for 47-year-olds? And she said, oh yeah, we can find you a job, all right. And she asked me where I worked and what have you, and she said, you wouldn't want them to know that you're inquiring, would you? And I said, no, not really. She said, oh, that's fine, we'll handle that too. And she said, that's all right. So anyway, it wasn't 5 minutes, or you know, it was just a short time. The phone went and asked me, and she said, no, there's a job here for you, but you'll have to start straight away, more or less. And I said, all right. So I felt terrible about that. I rang the secretary, and I wrote a letter out, and I rang the secretary and I said, look, I'm terribly sorry about this, but if I don't start, I don't get a job, you know. So I wrote that in the present. So anyway, the next thing, the secretary arrives in. He said, what's the trouble, Ted? You know, you want more money of that? And I said, no. I said,
enough.
You know, I said, I'm sick of being a bloody drunk slave sort of thing, you know. And but I said, I'm apologised for the short notice, but I explained it to him. And anyway, so I worked that week. I worked a week, and I went in on the Friday night, and they gave me an easy boy chair and what have you for things and that sort of thing. And I left. That was it. So.
And you started at the smelter?
I went down to TY, and straight away on the west, I went into the pot rooms.
Mm-hmm. What was that like?
It was bloody hard work.
Yeah.
Excuse my French. It was shocking. And I was about nearly 16 stone at the club. I tell you what, within a couple of weeks, the weight dropped off me, even on the training line. I went onto the training line, and it's all changed now, but in those days, the anodes, the blocks that when they dragged them out of the crane, dragged them out and put them on the floor, and you had to clean them with a crowbar. And lifting the crowbars are damned heavy enough with the magnetics, you know, and you'd clean them all off, all the 4 stubs. They had 4 stubs, and you clean them off, all the metal and all the rubbish off them, chrylite or whatever, I forget what you call it now, but you clean that off. They'd come out and they'd lift another one and pick the other one up and rack it and that sort of thing. And you had to get up there and measure we had a gauge to the right gauge. The new one went in and they filled it up with all the rubbish, chrylite and what's the name. But and you'd have, I think we had about 8 blocks or something like that, 6 or 8 blocks. And you never changed the day shift. You might change the night shift, and the afternoon shift changed the day shift, and now they sort of rostered around differently. And then you'd clean them, and you had pits to pull. You know, all the rubbish down in pits. There was pits, and you'd have to scrape those out. There was other work and sweep the decks and things like that, and you used to get the light ups, the pots weren't getting enough ore, and the breaker bar would come down, and that's the ore in there had frozen on top, and they couldn't get through, and because the pots, the stuff was all heating up, and the red light would come on, it would be screaming siren, you know, and you'd have to go down and break a hole in that, and we had long sticks of wood, you know, so thick, and you'd have to push them into the pot, and that would burn off the gas and that sort of thing. You'd push them along the bottom, you know, where all the rubbish was, until that light went out, you know. And you'd have to break that pot in first, and then you'd feed it, give it a feed of manually, you know. And then quieten down, that sort of thing. But that would pop up while you're cleaning the damn blocks, and you got behind then, you know.
Yeah.
And the bloody crane drivers waiting on you. Oh God. And so that's how I got burnt. He got burnt a lot, you know. When we first started, we just had those doctor's masks, you know, and the heat, the straps would melt on them, you know, and they'd come down
so it was a pretty hot job.
Oh, that was a hot job.
Yeah.
And anyway, I managed to. I don't say you ever got used to the heat, but and the heat of up, and that was alone, but you'd carry on like this, and then you'd have to sweep up all this rubbish, and you were kept busy. Don't worry about it, and. It was good to knock off. But
yes, so you're at TY, and that was the last job you had as well. Did you retire from there?
When I turned to 60, I retired then, you know, and been very lazy ever since.
You're allowed to be, yeah. Going back to when you lived on the coast, you had experienced quite a few earthquakes there, did you, at the time?
Oh yes, we had one big one, the Anangahua quake, I think it was caused. I think it was about 5 people died overall, you know, some up in Anangahua, and I remember the taxi driver going out to Rananga, he got killed too, the overhead bridge, not the overhead, one of those bridges, what do you call them?
Overbridge.
Overbridge. It rose up in front of his cab and he ran straight into it, you know. And but it caused a lot of damage. You go outside, all the chimneys were leaning one way, you know, you look down the street, and in our house, it was a wreck. It was being a place which used coal for heating and that, all the dust accumulated in the roof. It was covered, place was covered. and this hot water cylinder was hanging off, things. And
can you remember what time it struck when you know when you? Was it early in the morning?
Yes, I
or?
think it was not. It was in the morning, because I remember grabbing everybody, and we all got under the archways of the door, here at the bedroom, one of the bedroom doors, and we all stood under that and did a rock and roll, and we could hear things smashing. We had a little plastic radio over the top of the china cabinet, and then it come down and smashed to pieces, and of course the cabinet door had opened, and all the glasses and just they were all over the floor, and up in the front, the chimney up the front, it was leaning like that. It was way off from the house, and the bricks had come through and off the surround the the fireplace, and one was laying on top of the piano, a brick on the piano, and the cracks in the fireplace, and it was a mess. The whole place was a mess, and but when you look down the street with all the chimneys on one side, and Claire's Chris's sister's house, it was good as gold. It wasn't. That wasn't a brick out of place or standing in it. Amazing.
Yeah.
And but anyway, the neighbours had it around, and one fella came up with the spanners and something like that, and horse rider came up and give a hand, to sort of.
And
so,
there was also back down here in Invercargill at the time. There were two big floods, I think 78 and 84. Do you remember those at all?
Oh yeah, we were all right up here. Well, it was bad out of Waikiwi way. It was, and we got to work with we went to work at Tiwai because the bus got through was all flooded out, but we managed to get through out there. But out of Waikiwi was terrible, Jenny Shaw, Jill's friend, they were all flooded out there, yeah. But here we were good, because of a bit of a dip or something like that,
Yeah.
But, and the poor devil suffered, the airport was, shocked off.
Yeah, that got really flooded out, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but...
yeah, and early life on the coast as well. Sorry, I'm going back and forward, but you mentioned something about night carts.
Oh God, yeah.
Can you tell us what that was?
It was the night when there was no in the toilets, and everybody's toilet was out the back, away from the house, and they had the nightman. He had a big horse and cart, and he'd come around in the early hours in the morning and tip the tins, with the night cart. Sometimes you could see the trail of it up the road, the old horse going along.
Yeah. Maybe a horrible job,
yeah,
eh?
Yeah, it was a horrible job, yeah. And that was when went on for ages till they put toilets in Renee. Well, I don't know whether I don't think we had them in when we left. I'm not too sure now. Because I shifted it was getting blown over, and that it was when you went out our back door and you went down the concrete path, and it was just to the side. The toilet was at the side, and it was getting knocked around, and so I shifted it into the garage and just around the corner shifted it in there. But it might have been still there when I can't remember whether we didn't have one inside, I'm sure.
So it was not so much a long drop, but more of a bucket sort of situation.
Oh, it wasn't a long drop, it was a bucket, yeah. We had chemical stuff, too, but that was a bloody awful job. It was a photograph of me somewhere. I don't know who took it, might have been Phil or Jill or what, or me emptying it. It's all you see is my backside and the shovel, and I'm emptying the bloody, what's the name,
Yeah.
I used to empty it in the garden, away from everything sort of thing, but I used to empty it in there. It was a bloody awful job.
And did you get to travel around much when you were younger to say like Ross or Harry or around the other coast towns
No,
at all?
not real.
Go for holidays or anything with the family, or
No, well, we had not really. I've never been a traveller, but we went to Christchurch a few times. We had friends over there. We went over there quite a few times. We went. Tris was a bridesmaid or maid in Moana for a friend of hers, an Irish girl. We went over there for to the wedding, and we went over to the Kears as friends of ours a few times. Over to Christchurch, and when Phil and Tony worked down the Hearth for a wee while, and who were the Ministry of Works, we went down there, and we never really traveled. We went to one Christmas. We went to Timaru with Claire and family, and Mick Kelly, friends of there. We all went down to Timaru and stayed in a motor camp, something like Heidi High, only it was no entertainment, something like that. When we were all packed in a flaming a box, and there was there was Tris and I and the three girls, and this is 1956, I think, here, and the three girls all in this bloody little place, But anyway, and we used to cook the meals outside, and we had to rail their blankets and sheets and that. We had to rail them down to Timaru and pick them up at the station, and.
Because what car did you have at that time? Do you remember?
I never had a car.
Oh, okay.
Well, we travelled with Mick Kelly, and they had their daughter, I think, at the time.
Do you remember buying your first car? Do you remember the make and model?
Yes, it was a Vauxhall Velox.
A Vauxhall
Velox.
Yeah.
I went over to this another one. I went over to Kevin Smith, the Kears' player. Kevin was Sylvia's brother, and I went over with him. I was going to buy a standard 10. That was what I said. So anyway, when I got over there, Kevin said to me, "Oh, you don't want a standard 10, Ted." He said, "Well, hey, come with me, son. I'll go with you and we'll have a look around." So he took me around, and we went in and we saw this Vauxhall Velox or whatever, and it was $600 and something, I think, at that time. So we went all over it, Kevin. He said, "No, looks good to me." So I said, "All right." He said, "I'll come back to the coast with you." So I bought it, and he came back and he drove it and what have you. And he loved it,
Mm.
So I had that, and I had it for a while, and then I was working in that mine. I was a shareholder, and then I started getting bloody tax bills, and I said, "I bloody paid up all my pay in advance sort of thing." So anyway, I rang up the accountant, and I said, "I thought I was paid way above him." He said, "Oh no," he told me some story. I know about what it was. And I said, "Oh, bugger this." And I was getting the next week I get another one. I was getting, got one for, it ended and mounted up more than I had to sell the car in the finish. I was sick of it. I thought, I'm not going to have this hanging over my head. So I sold it.
Mm.
I got about $500 or something for it.
So here's this photo of the Vauxhall Velox.
Yeah.
Two-tone.
Yeah.
So it was what, green and cream, or was it a brown?
It was white and green.
White and green, yep.
Yeah.
And who have we got in this photo?
There's Phil.
Yep.
Bev, Jill, Tris, and myself.
Oh, good one. You think you look back on, you wish you should have tried, or anything you would have liked to have done in particular?
No, well, I suppose it's being living in a mining town, and your father being a miner, and sort of way of life.
Mm.
But the others, like Jack, went to the railway, and Billy went to the army, and Billy did a bit of mining too.
Yeah.
He worked for us for a week, you know, before he was going away to England and that, and we gave him a job out there for a week, you know,
Yeah.
but Billy was good. He
Yeah.
was, yes, Billy knew his stuff, you know, and,
Yeah.
he was good.
Yeah.
And Jack was, well, he became a mainline fireman, and he joined the Navy like after Billy, you know, and Billy only served 4 years and got out of it, and then he went to Malaya with the army. Said, all I've got to do now is the Air Force, and I've done a lot. And he went to England on a holiday, and that's what just before he went after, he worked that week for us. And Jack served his 8 years in the Navy, and then he started up a little business of his own in Auckland, concreting and dividing sections and footpaths and all that sort of thing. And when they shifted down here, he became foreman of the gasworks down here, and he worked there till they closed them up, and he helped strip it all down. And then he went to he became the custodian of the swimming baths. Yeah. Owen went to Owen joined the railway. He was in the booking office, and when he was about 17, he left in Greymouth, and he left. And I think he walked, when he got to Christchurch, he walked the railway line to Littleton, and he got a ship over, and he stood on the corner. They called it the corner, I think, as far as I know. And he got a job took him on the ferries. He was on the ferries for a wee while, and he went on to the Monowai, you know, to Australia, you know, the thing. And then he came out of there, and he worked on the wharf. Yeah, no, he worked on the wharf for a while, and then he joined the Air Force near New Zealand, and then he was there till he retired. And he retired quite quickly. He must have been in his 50s, I think he retired. Then he bought a mobile taxi, you know, to take the sick and all that sort of thing. And he had that for a while, and then he shifted down to Hokitika. It was Christopher Lex. And Chrissy, I don't think he did anything apart from mines. But he was a different generation. Whereas we loved football and things like that, he liked cars. Cars were his thing, you know. And he went into mining too. He had a share in a mine up the 10 Mile, and a good one too, and a clever, worked on hydro. They had a hydro system, and they worked everything to the rise, and they had a big sump with a hose in it, and they'd have that filled up, and I think it only gave them 1 wash a day. They'd bore all and fire all their coal, and then they'd have this big hose, and they'd flush the coal all down into a bin or something like an area, and then that water would flow back into that sump, and that would use that the next day or something like that. I think that's the way it went.
Yeah.
And then they had they put it in the boxes, and they had a box with self-opening thing, and it would go down on ropes. It would go down to the bins on the roads up to the thing, and when it hit there, it would open itself, and the coal would go out, and then I think they must have had another box to pull it up, or whether it was pulled up, I'm not sure. Whether they had another. Yeah, I'm not sure about that now. But anyway, that's what they did, you know. It was a well worked out mine. So as I say, Chrissy, he went to mining, and he was that interested. He could do any with the cars. Oh, you know, he could turn his panel beat them and fix them. You know, gifted man.
I was going to ask you about Nana, you know, Tris, and how you met, and you know, and the wedding. You Do you remember the wedding and things like that? And
Yeah, well, Tris and I met. I was sitting at home one night, one Saturday night. I wasn't going anywhere, and Mum and Dad were going out. They used to play cards a lot, at the hotel. Great card players, and I was sitting there. And I said, "Oh, David, they're all going out. I might as well go out myself, So I went over to the Lyceum dance place, and I was walked in. I was sitting there, and I said, "Well, there's a nice looking woman over there. I'll go and ask her for a dance, So anyway,
plucked up the courage.
yes, I went over and I said, "Going to have a dance?" And she said yes. And anyway, we just yapped away and talked about, and yapped on and on. And
was this in Greymouth itself?
This is Greymouth, yeah.
Oh,
this is Greymouth. And anyway, I just asked her, well, who she was, and I told her who I was, sort of thing, And I think she might have been with Claire. I think she was with Claire. I think Claire, as it happened, that's right. She wasn't going to go either, but they'd be pestering her to go, and for peace sake, she thought, "I'll go,"
And Claire is Tris's sister.
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. So anyway, I don't know whether it was the next Saturday night or I thought I'll go back again, So I went back and chatted more to her, and got to know her more, and she invited me out home, So anyway, I went out and met the parents and what have you, and
did the parents were they nice people? They take kindly to you?
Yeah, the Burgesses. Tris's father was a superintendent for the St. John's, and the Queen gave him a medal in 1953 when he came out. But anyway, I came out. I was a bit nervous. I think I'd had a couple of beers and ate my sausages with my fingers. I think I did something like that. Made a great impression. And anyway, so we start going out together, and we went together for I think about a year, sort of thing, before we got married, and it was quite a while, and anyway, we got married. It was we got married on the Boxing Day, and it was a lovely day. I got sunburnt the day before. The weather was lovely, and when the taxi driver came and picked us up from Cobden and went out, and when we got out of the cab, somebody was patting me on the back, and I said, "Must be smoking." A bloody cigarette went down the back of my neck, but I managed to grab it, and I was sunburnt to hell. But anyway, we got married in the St. Pat's Church, the old church in Renanga, and anyway, we went off to we went in the rail car over to Christchurch for our honeymoon. We had a week over there at a little private hotel, and we went dancing and went to the races, and then the show day. We went to show day, and
nice.
Full the weekend like that, and sort of thing. Came back, it was very nice. And then we came back, and we I'm not sure now, but we had got a house pretty sleek, little house in Hall Jones Street.
Whereabouts is what?
That was in Renanga.
Renanga.
Yeah, and it was just just down from Denali, down on the road straight through. And Freddie came. He was very good. Freddie Ramson, Claire's husband, he came down and did a bit of work in the pantry area. It was old, and put new boarding and that up, sort of thing, and I think we got it for about £1,800,
Oh, wow.
we worked around the club. We had bottle drives for the club and things like that. One time when I was saving all these bottles up, and I had them stacked in the garage, and anyway, there was heaps of them, great bottles from anywhere, where we could get them. And I went in I went to the garage one day and I thought, God, the bottles don't seem to, they seem to be going down. So anyway, I thought, I wonder. So I was looking, I could look out the back window, and I was here one night. Here's three, the boy next door, a fella next door to him. I think it was a third one. But here they were plugging the bottles and off with them, you see. So anyway, I waited another night and I saw them when I hiked down. I said, what the hell do you think you're bloody doing, you know? Oh, two took off that way, and the other fella from the furthest away, he took off, he went straight through the bloody garage, you know, and he went down the drive and I ran after him, and then he went straight up my drive up the other side, and I thought, we've done stuff, I'm going to die, you know. And I got to right to the back of the section, and he said, I give up, he said. I grabbed him by the scruff of the neck. I said, gotcha, little bugger. And I said, I keep pretty hard, and as I catch you here again, oh no. So that was the end of it, hey, bloody, I caught the ball, you know, but,
yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, the buggers. I'm sure there was three. I can't think who the other one was. I might have had a collar, but it was Lawrence Smithson and John Patterson.
Yeah, thanks again. And
yeah, that's no problem, mate. You're welcome.
Yeah, it was really good to hear about some things that happened back in the day.
Yeah, no. Yeah, mate.
Yeah, and
pretty
you got
busy life.
Well, we got
the last few years I've done bugger all.
Yeah, well,
I've done a bit, but
you've got a chance to relax. You know, it's your turn to relax. And you've obviously got a few grandkids and great grandkids and great grandkids. You know, so yeah, got a bit of a legacy followed on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.